So you want better positioning in Rainbow Six Siege? Well, lucky for you, this is the video. Now the first tip that I would recommend is gaining information. So on offense, this just means droning, setting up a pre-placed cam, and understanding where the enemies are going to be holding. On defense, this means hopping on cams right off the bat to try to see where the enemies will be pushing from and what attackers they are bringing. My next tip would be to not expose yourself to multiple angles. Now how do you do this? Take account of your surroundings. If you are swinging from VIP and trying to peek hookah, understand that you are going to be getting peeked from these head holes, this double door, and possibly even 90. You could be getting flanked. Now here's the thing. On offense, you have a lot to counter this. Defense you do as well, but let's be honest, you're not going to want to throw a barricade on every single door. So just understand how to position yourself to not be exposed to all these angles. Next, we're going to be talking about high value points. Now, what are high value points? We're talking about weak points and strong points. Strong points you want to be focusing on as a defender. Weak points you want to be focusing on as an attacker. Now, how do we identify a weak point and a strong point? A weak point is somewhere that the enemies aren't holding very strongly, hence the name. This could be somewhere like Aqua on Coastline. Now, yes, Aqua is kind of difficult to take. And if you want to dumb it down, you could definitely also just take somewhere like Theater or VIP, where it's not near as much of a presence. But usually, if you're doing a direct take, the weak point will be about one room over from the main site. If you're doing something like a roam clear, it will be the opposite side of the map from site. Now, as an attacker, when you take a weak point like Aqua on Coastline, this now becomes one of your strong points. This is somewhere that the defenders do not want you having, and they will try to retake it from you. Strong points are just part of the map that are incredibly useful to hold, whether it's for sheer presence or just opportunity. Now, strong points as a defender will be roughly the same. It'll be about one room from the objective, possibly a bit more, but it will get weaker and weaker the further you go for the most part, unless you dedicate a lot of utility to a specific area. Now, when holding a strong point, let's take Aqua from Coastline as an example, you usually want to either hold this down with your life and fight for it the whole round, or you want to at least delay about 1 minute to 2 minutes into the round with this point. Now let's talk about retaking. Let's say you lost Aqua as a defender. How are you going to retake it? Well, first, you need to have knowledge of where the enemies are pushing or if they are holding. This will be knowledge like understanding if they're pushing from Aqua Balk or luggage. Now, retaking can be very difficult, and a lot of the times it just comes down to a duel of who has the better gunplay. But this can be made easier with gadgets or even another teammate if you coordinate a push. The biggest retake will usually be for your roamers, and that's either taking high value points or taking back site. Usually when you're taking back site, you want a pretty direct take. Obviously, you're not going to want to be running around the whole map just to get back the site. High value points work roughly the same, but you may have to go through a tad bit more to get to them, as you will not have near as much of your utility in that presence. Now let's talk about playing in your range. Now let's say we have a mute here holding a shotgun, and I'm trying to clear him from Aqua. How are you going to push this? Well, you're not going to want to swing super close because now we are in his range. Rather, what you're going to want to do is swing at a further angle. Now this isn't the best example, but this is a good demonstration of how to play in your range. If you do not have a close range weapon and you're going against somebody who does, try to use that to your advantage and get at a longer range. Now let's say you're the opposite. Let's say you're the mute. You're going to want to try and funnel attackers in to where you are now in your range. A good way of doing this could be just as soon as you hear them walk in, maybe you try and swing them, because you know that they couldn't be clear back here in Aqua. But for the most part, you will know if you are in your range or not. A good example with this as well is if you're running a DMR, and let's say you're on Dokkaebi and you have an SMG-12 as your secondary. If you're in a close range like this, you do not want to be using your DMR. You want to be using your SMG-12. And a lot of operators have this ability with secondary weapons. So you're really going to want to focus on playing in your range with characters that have shotguns, DMRs, and snipers like Kali. For instance, as soon as you enter the building, you probably don't want to be running Kali's sniper. But if you're sitting back in ruins, the sniper's a pretty good option because almost nobody will be able to contest you. So in short, know your range and know the enemy's range, and I think you'll have this tip down pretty easily. Anyways, that wraps it up. I hope any of these tips help you because I know positioning is a huge part of this game, and it's very difficult for a lot of newer players to understand how to position themselves well. So I hope this helps you guys. Go out there, get the rank that you're after, be safe, and I love you guys.